Before we dive into this emotional journey of truth and betrayal, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories that illuminate the hidden corners of human relationships. Now, let's meet Adeline Thompson, a woman whose keen observation would change her son's life forever. Adeline Thompson stood frozen in the checkout line at Westlake Market, her weathered hands gripping the shopping cart handle. At 67, she had developed the habit of averting her eyes when the cashier announced the total of her modest purchases. Living on a fixed pension in her small downtown Seattle apartment meant careful budgeting. "That'll be $38.12, the young cashier said with a practiced smile. As Adeline reached for her wallet, she noticed the cashier's expression change to one of recognition while looking past her shoulder. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Mason. I see you're shopping for the special occasion tonight," the cashier said cheerfully to the woman in line behind Adeline. Adeline's ears perked up at the name. Mason. Her son Michael's married name. She turned slightly, enough to confirm what she already suspected. Sarah Mason, her daughter-in-law of 4 years, stood there with a cart overflowing with premium items. A bottle of Dom Perignon champagne, fresh lobster tails, imported cheeses, and organic produce. "Yes, just a little family celebration," Sarah replied with a dismissive wave of her hand, adorned with a gleaming diamond tennis bracelet Adeline had never seen before. Adeline quickly paid and moved to the side, pretending to organize her grocery bags while watching Sarah's items being scanned. The total flashed on the screen: $427.89. Sarah swiped her credit card without hesitation. What struck Adeline was not just the extravagant purchase, but the timing. Just yesterday, Michael had called, sounding stressed, explaining that he'd sent Sarah another $1,000 to help with their mortgage payment this month. "Mom, things are tight again," he had said, the weight of financial strain evident in his voice. For 2 years, Adeline had listened to Michael's accounts of their struggles. Medical bills, car repairs, rising rent costs. Her son, always generous to a fault, had been sending money regularly to support his wife's family. "Sarah's parents are having a rough time," he would explain, or "Sarah's sister needed emergency dental work." As Adeline watched her daughter-in-law stride confidently toward the parking lot, she felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Seattle autumn air. Something wasn't right. She followed at a distance, just in time to see Sarah load her groceries into the trunk of a brand new Lexus SUV, another purchase Michael had never mentioned. Adeline's hands trembled as she reached for her outdated flip phone. She paused, finger hovering over Michael's number. No, this required more than suspicion. Her son deserved evidence, not accusations. "I may be old," she whispered to herself, straightening her posture, "but I'm not blind. And I'm certainly not stupid." That night, in her small apartment with the view of the Seattle skyline, obscured by a newer, taller building, Adeline Thompson made a decision. She would uncover the truth about her daughter-in-law, no matter how painful it might be. She opened her worn leather notebook and wrote the date at the top of a fresh page. Below it, she wrote, "Sarah at Westlake Market, $427.89. New Lexus SUV, diamond bracelet. 1 day after Michael sent $1 for mortgage trouble." Outside, rain began to tap against her window, a gentle, persistent rhythm that matched the beating of her worried heart. The morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains of Adeline's apartment as she sipped her tea, contemplating her next move. Her small dining table was covered with neatly arranged bills, her checkbook, and a calculator, tools of her lifelong financial discipline. Her late husband, Robert, had always admired her attention to detail. "Addie," he would say, "you could have been a detective with those observant eyes." The memory brought a faint smile to her lips. Perhaps it was time to put those skills to use. Adeline had always maintained a respectful distance from Michael and Sarah's marriage. Her own mother-in-law had been overbearing, and she had vowed never to repeat those mistakes. But this was different. This wasn't about interfering. It was about protecting her son from exploitation. She reached for her phone and dialed Michael's number. "Mom, hey, is everything okay?" Michael's voice was warm but rushed. "Everything's fine, dear. I was just wondering if you and Sarah might be free for dinner this weekend. It's been weeks since I've seen you both." There was a pause. "I'd love to, Mom, but I'm swamped with work. We're trying to catch up after I took those days off when Sarah's dad was in the hospital last month." Adeline felt a tightening in her chest. Another emergency she hadn't heard about directly. "I'm sorry to hear that. Is he doing better?" "Yeah, much better. Sarah says he's almost back to normal, but the medical bills have been tough. That's why I've been putting in the extra hours." "You work so hard, Michael. I'm proud of you." She hesitated. "What if I came to your place instead? I could bring dinner. Save Sarah the trouble of cooking." Another pause. "Let me check with Sarah. She mentioned something about her family coming over this weekend. I'll get back to you." After they hung up, Adeline added another note to her journal. Sarah's father supposedly hospitalized last month. Michael took days off work. She underlined the word supposedly twice. That afternoon, Adeline did something she had never done before. She took a bus across town to the upscale neighborhood where Michael and Sarah lived. She told herself she was just being a concerned mother, perhaps bringing some homemade cookies as a surprise. The small box of chocolate chip cookies in her bag provided the perfect cover. As the bus approached their stop, Adeline felt a fluttering of anxiety in her stomach. What if Sarah was home? What would she say? But something stronger than anxiety propelled her forward. Love for her son. The Mason home was a handsome 2-story house in one of Seattle's more exclusive neighborhoods. Michael had been so proud when they purchased it, though he'd mentioned taking out a second mortgage recently to keep up with expenses. Adeline approached cautiously, noticing the new Lexus parked in the driveway. Before she could reach the front door, she heard laughter from the backyard. Female voices. She hesitated, then walked around the side of the house, staying close to the hedge. What she saw through the gap in the fence made her blood run cold. Sarah was lounging by a newly installed swimming pool, one Michael had never mentioned, with 3 other women, all sipping champagne. A catering service worker was arranging an elaborate lunch spread on a table decorated with fresh flowers. "He didn't even question it," Sarah was saying, her voice carrying clearly in the afternoon air. "I told him my sister needed emergency oral surgery, and he transferred $3,000 that day." One of the women laughed. "Your sister got those veneers she wanted, I assume?" "Of course," Sarah raised her glass. "To my sweet, gullible husband. May his promotion come through as expected." Adeline's cookies slipped from her trembling fingers, scattering across the sidewalk. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could hear was the cruel laughter of these women, these strangers who were celebrating the exploitation of her kind-hearted son. She backed away slowly, tears blurring her vision. On the bus ride home, Adeline's sadness crystallized into resolve. This wasn't just about money. This was about trust, respect, and love, none of which Sarah seemed to have for Michael. That night, Adeline added to her growing list of evidence. Pool party with catering. Sarah bragging about lying for $3,000 for sister's emergency oral surgery, which was actually cosmetic veneers. She stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, noticing how the lines around her eyes had deepened in just one day. "For you, Michael," she whispered to her reflection. "I'll find the truth for you." Over the next 2 weeks, Adeline Thompson transformed from a retiring widow into a determined investigator. She kept a detailed log of Sarah's activities, strategically planning her accidental encounters with her daughter-in-law across Seattle. On Tuesday, she spotted Sarah having lunch at Canlis, one of the city's most expensive restaurants, with a group of fashionably dressed women. The following day, Michael called to explain he couldn't visit because they were cutting back on driving to save gas money. By Thursday, Adeline had developed a routine. She would take her morning bus downtown, transfer to wherever her investigation led her that day, and return home by evening to document her findings. Her pension didn't allow for extravagance, but she had saved for emergencies. If protecting her son wasn't an emergency, what was? "Excuse me." Adeline approached the manager at Westlake Market, where she had first witnessed Sarah's extravagance. "I believe my daughter-in-law may have lost a receipt here last week. She's quite worried about it, something about needing it for their tax records." The manager, a kind-faced man named Greg, who had known Adeline for years, looked sympathetic. "What's the name?" "Mason. Sarah Mason." Greg typed into his computer. "We keep records of larger purchases for our rewards program. Let me see. Yes, Mrs. Mason shops here regularly. In fact, she made a purchase just yesterday, $376.44. Adeline's heart sank. Yesterday, Michael had texted her apologizing for canceling their lunch plans because Sarah had called him in tears, saying their refrigerator had broken down and they needed $400 to repair it. "Thank you, Greg. That's very helpful. Would you like me to print her purchase history for the past month, for the tax records?" Adeline hesitated only briefly. "That would be wonderful, if it's not too much trouble." Armed with the printed record of Sarah's regular lavish spending, Adeline continued her investigation. She discovered that Sarah's parents, far from struggling financially, as Michael had been led to believe, owned a vacation home in Bainbridge Island. Her supposed unemployed brother drove a BMW and had recently returned from a golf trip to Scotland. The most damning evidence came when Adeline visited the hospital where Sarah's father had supposedly been treated the previous month. A careful conversation with the information desk confirmed what she had begun to suspect. No one by that name had been admitted during that time period. Each discovery felt like a stone being added to the burden she carried. How could she tell her son that the woman he loved had been systematically deceiving him? That his generosity had been exploited not for necessities, but for luxuries? One afternoon, while sitting in the small cafe across from Sarah's favorite boutique, watching her daughter-in-law try on designer clothes, Adeline noticed a young woman at the next table wiping away tears as she spoke quietly on her phone. "I understand, Mom," the woman was saying. "I'll figure something out. The medication is expensive, but I can pick up extra shifts at the hospital." Adeline couldn't help but overhear. When the woman hung up, their eyes met briefly. "I'm sorry," Adeline said. "I couldn't help overhearing. Are you all right?" The woman, who introduced herself as Eliza, was a nurse at Seattle General. Her mother had recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and the cost of treatment was straining her budget. As they talked, Adeline found herself drawn to Eliza's genuine concern for her family. The way she spoke of sacrifice without resentment, of love without conditions. It was everything that Sarah's actions were not. "My son is married to someone who takes advantage of his generosity," Adeline found herself confessing. "I don't know how to tell him." Eliza reached across the table and squeezed Adeline's hand. "The truth hurts, but lies destroy. If your son is half as kind as you, he deserves to know." Later that evening, as Adeline reviewed her growing file of evidence, receipts, dates, photographs, taken discreetly with her old phone, she realized she had more than suspicions now. She had proof that Sarah and her family had systematically deceived Michael out of approximately $15,000 over 2 years. But how to present this to her son without seeming like a meddling mother-in-law? How to show him the truth without breaking his heart? The answer came in an unexpected form. A text message from Michael. "Mom, can we talk tomorrow? Alone? There's something I need advice about." Adeline's hands trembled as she replied, "Of course, dear. I'll make your favorite apple pie." Perhaps her son had begun to see the truth for himself. Either way, tomorrow would be the day of reckoning. The aroma of freshly baked apple pie filled Adeline's small apartment. She had woken at dawn, unable to sleep with the weight of what might transpire today. Baking had always been her therapy, and Michael had loved her apple pie since childhood. At precisely 11 o'clock, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, the sight of her son nearly broke her heart. Michael stood there, 6 feet tall but somehow diminished, his shoulders slumped, dark circles under his eyes. "Mom," was all he said before stepping into her embrace. "Come in, sweetheart. The pie's just cooled enough to eat." They settled at her small dining table, the morning light casting gentle shadows across the room. Michael picked at his pie, unusual for a man who typically devoured her baking with enthusiastic appreciation. "What is it, Michael? What's troubling you?" He set down his fork and rubbed his face with both hands, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that Adeline felt a pang of nostalgia. "It's Sarah. I think she might be hiding something from me." The words seemed to physically pain him. "Our finances don't add up. We should be comfortable with both our salaries, but we're constantly struggling. Every month there's some new emergency with her family." Adeline reached for his hand. "What made you start questioning things?" 2 days ago, I came home early from work. Wanted to surprise Sarah with takeout since she said she was too exhausted to cook after taking her mom to physical therapy." He paused, swallowing hard. "But when I got there, the house was empty. I found a receipt on the counter from a restaurant I'd never heard of. Lunch for 4, over $200 from that same afternoon." He looked up, eyes searching hers. "When Sarah came home, she was still talking about her mom's therapy session, how draining it had been. I didn't confront her, I needed to think." Adeline felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that she wouldn't have to be the one to initiate this painful conversation. Sadness that her suspicions had been correct. "Michael, I need to show you something." She rose and retrieved the folder she had prepared, placing it gently on the table between them. "I've noticed some discrepancies myself." For the next hour, Adeline carefully presented what she had discovered. The luxury purchases made on days when Sarah claimed financial emergencies, the healthy relatives who had supposedly been hospitalized, the pattern of deception that had drained thousands from Michael's accounts. Michael's expression shifted from disbelief to pain, to a quiet anger. When she showed him the photograph of Sarah's father playing golf on the day he was supposedly recovering from surgery, something seemed to break inside him. $15,000, he whispered, looking at the estimated total Adeline had carefully calculated. "That's what I've given them for fake emergencies in the past 2 years. Money we could have used to fix our actual problems, to build our future. I'm so sorry, Michael. I didn't want to interfere in your marriage, but..." "No, Mom." Michael reached for her hand. "Thank you for caring enough to tell me the truth. For having the courage I didn't." They sat in silence for a moment, the half-eaten pie between them, the evidence of betrayal spread across the table. "What will you do?" Adeline finally asked. Michael straightened his shoulders, a resolve settling over his features. "First, I need to confirm everything for myself. Then I need to have an honest conversation with my wife. After that," he shook his head. "I don't know." Before he left, Michael hugged his mother tightly. Dad always said you were the smartest woman he'd ever known. He was right. Adeline watched from her window as Michael walked to his car, his posture straighter than when he had arrived, as if unburdened by the weight of uncertainty, even as he carried the new burden of painful truth. That night, alone in her apartment, Adeline prayed for her son's strength in the days to come. Truth was necessary, but it was rarely painless. 3 days passed without word from Michael. Adeline tried to keep busy, cleaning her already tidy apartment, volunteering at the community center, anything to keep her mind from constant worry. On the 4th morning, her phone rang. "Mom, can I come over?" Michael's voice sounded hollow, exhausted. "Of course. I'll be here all day." When he arrived an hour later, the changes in him were visible. He had lost weight, and his usual meticulously styled hair was uncombed. But there was something else, a certain clarity in his eyes that hadn't been there before. They sat on her small balcony, watching the Seattle skyline through gaps between the newer buildings. For a while, neither spoke, sharing the comfortable silence that only exists between people who truly know each other. Finally, Michael took a deep breath. "I confronted Sarah, showed her what I'd found, what you'd found, asked her for explanations. Adeline waited, giving him space to continue at his own pace. She denied it at first. Said you were interfering, trying to drive us apart. He gave a sad smile. When that didn't work, she cried. Said she'd made mistakes but loved me. When that didn't work, she got angry. Said her family deserved a good life and what was wrong with enjoying the finer things. He shook his head, looking down at his hands. Not once did she apologize for lying. Not once did she show remorse for the deception, only for being caught. Oh, Michael, Adeline murmured, her heart breaking for her son. I've filed for divorce. The words hung in the air between them. I met with a lawyer yesterday. He says given the financial deception, I have a strong case. Adeline reached for his hand. Are you sure that's what you want? What I want, Michael said softly, is a marriage based on trust and honesty. I can't have that with Sarah. I realize that now. Over the following weeks, Adeline witnessed her son's painful journey through the divorce proceedings. Sarah contested everything, portraying herself as the victim of a controlling husband and his interfering mother. But the evidence was irrefutable. The court ruled largely in Michael's favor. What surprised Adeline most was not the outcome of the divorce, but the change in her son. Rather than becoming bitter or closed off, Michael seemed to grow more thoughtful, more deliberately present in his life and relationships. I keep thinking about all those excuses I made for her, he confessed one evening, as they shared dinner at his new apartment, smaller than his previous home, but somehow more welcoming. All the red flags I ignored because I wanted to believe in the person I thought I had married. We all have blind spots when it comes to those we love, Adeline said gently. You didn't. Oh, Michael. She smiled sadly. Your father and I had our challenges too. The difference was, we faced them together, with honesty. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Michael called his mother with an unexpected request. There's someone I'd like you to meet. Her name is Eliza. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks. Adeline felt a surge of protective concern. Isn't it a bit soon? We're taking things slowly, Mom. But I think you'll like her. She's a nurse at Seattle General. We met when I was volunteering at their community health drive. The name sounded familiar, but Adeline couldn't place it immediately. When Michael brought Eliza to Sunday dinner the following week, recognition dawned. The compassionate nurse from the cafe, the young woman who had encouraged Adeline to tell her son the truth. Watching them together, Adeline observed none of the performative affection that had characterized Michael and Sarah's relationship. Instead, there was something quieter, more genuine. The way Eliza listened attentively when Michael spoke, the mutual respect evident in their interactions. During a moment alone in the kitchen, Eliza approached Adeline. I never made the connection until Michael mentioned his mother's name. You're the kind lady from the cafe. And you're the nurse with the mother who has Parkinson's. How is she doing? Better. Michael has been amazing. He found a support group for families dealing with Parkinson's, drives me to visit her every Sunday. Eliza's eyes filled with genuine appreciation. He never makes a big deal about it. He just helps. That's who he is, Adeline said proudly. That's who he's always been. As they returned to the dining room, Adeline watched her son laughing at something Eliza had said. The pain wasn't completely gone from his eyes. Such betrayal leaves lasting marks. But alongside it now was hope, a chance for something real, something built on a foundation of truth rather than deception. 1 year later, on a crisp autumn day, much like the one when Adeline had first noticed Sarah's extravagant grocery purchases, she found herself back at Westlake Market. This time, she wasn't alone. Do you think we need more cranberries, Adeline? Eliza asked, examining the produce with a critical eye. I want to make sure there's enough sauce for everyone. Better get an extra bag, Adeline advised. Michael could eat his weight in cranberry sauce if we let him. They shared a knowing smile. Michael's appetite had returned with his happiness, something both women celebrated in their own ways. Eliza by learning to cook his favorite dishes, Adeline by teaching her family recipes to the woman who had healed her son's heart. Thanksgiving would be at Michael and Eliza's new home this year, a modest but charming house they had purchased together, with a yard for the rescue dog they had adopted. And as Michael had shyly hinted to his mother recently, maybe someday for children. As they wheeled their cart through the aisles, Adeline reflected on the journey of the past year, the pain of discovery, the anguish of watching her son's marriage crumble, the slow, tentative steps toward healing. Oh, look, Eliza paused by the wine section. They have that Pinot Noir Michael likes, and it's on sale. Adeline watched as Eliza carefully checked the price, considered it against their shopping budget, and added just one bottle to their cart. Such a small thing, this mindfulness about money, this care with shared resources. But it spoke volumes about the difference between Michael's past and present. At the checkout, the total came to $83.76 for a full Thanksgiving dinner for 4, including Eliza's mother, who would be joining them. "Let me get this," Adeline insisted, reaching for her wallet. "We'll split it," Eliza countered with a gentle firmness that reminded Adeline of herself in younger days. As they loaded the groceries into Eliza's practical, well-maintained sedan, not new, not flashy, but reliable, Adeline felt a sense of profound gratitude, not just for the fact that her son had found love again, but for the kind of love he had found. Honest, supportive, mutual. That evening when Michael arrived at Adeline's apartment to pick up Eliza, who had stopped by to help Adeline prepare some dishes ahead of the holiday, Adeline observed the transformation in her son. The haunted look was gone from his eyes, replaced by a quiet contentment. He moved with confidence, laughed more easily, spoke more openly. "Hey, Mom." He hugged her tightly. "Eliza says you've been sharing all my embarrassing childhood stories again. Only the ones that show what a wonderful boy you were." Adeline defended herself with a smile. "And what a good man you've become." Later, as the three of them shared a simple dinner at Adeline's table, Michael raised his glass. "To the 2 strongest women I know. Mom, without your courage to show me the truth, I might still be living a lie. And Eliza, without your patience and honesty, I might never have believed in love again." Adeline felt tears prick at her eyes. "To truth," she said, raising her own glass, "and to second chances." As they ate and talked and laughed together, Adeline thought about the long journey from that moment of discovery in the grocery store to this warm evening of genuine connection. Sometimes the greatest act of love was not protection from pain, but the courage to confront necessary truths. Outside, the Seattle sky had darkened to deep indigo, lights from surrounding buildings twinkling like earthbound stars. In her small apartment, surrounded by authentic love, Adeline Thompson felt a deep sense of peace. The truth had cost $15,000 to uncover, but its value, that was beyond measure. If you've enjoyed this story of truth, family bonds, and second chances, please consider subscribing to our channel, hitting the like button, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Your support allows us to continue bringing these emotional journeys to life. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of what it means to love honestly and courageously.